Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, to my returning subscribers, and hello to all my new subscribers. My name is Faith and you're welcome. Feel free to hit the subscribe button if you see and like my content, and yeah, let me know your thoughts. I'm really struggling with responding to DMs and messages and I am so sorry. There's just a lot going on, but I will definitely get to them. But thank you so much for clicking on this video. Right, I don't know how you guys do it, you consistent full-time 9-to-5 workers who also still consistently dish out content on the gram, on YouTube, on TikTok, on everything. How do you people do it? How? Because I am struggling. This is struggling to cope. Like, this is if there's something that I missed in the memo, or if there's something that I failed to read, or maybe if there's a class that I can go to that will help me figure out how to juggle everything, I would appreciate if you just let me know, because I need it. Okay? So today's video is actually going to be a rant. I'm going to go on a rant. So this video is actually from the top of my head. I haven't prepared any notes or anything, so I'll just be talking from my heart, really, because this topic that I'm going to talk about today is very near to my heart, and it's the state of community pharmacy, or even pharmacy as a whole, in the United Kingdom at the moment in 2022, and how it differs from years ago when I qualified. And by years ago, I'm not even talking about that long ago, so maybe even like 5 years ago. What's the difference to now, and what do I think about it? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm sure a lot of people might have had these questions in their minds about, like, why some people complain about why community pharmacy is XYZ in the UK at the moment. What's going on there? People say it's not the best place to work in right now, and everyone's quitting their jobs. There's so much, like, the chemists and druggists say there is a shortage of pharmacists, which I will talk about in a minute. Like, there's so much, like, information, news, everything going on about the current state of community pharmacy in the UK. But these are my thoughts, and everything I'm going to say here today are going to be mostly my opinions. If you disagree, please feel free to disagree. You can have a constructive conversation with me in the comment section, or even come to my DMs if you feel like you need to say something. And if anyone likes what I'm saying, please feel free to share my video to your friends or family members or whoever you feel like needs to see this. I feel like at this point we need to start speaking about, like, what is going on, like what is actually happening. I follow someone on Instagram called Mel's Medicines, and she's a UK community pharmacist who has just gone into GP practice, which again, you can see how people are leaving their jobs in the community. So she's just gone into GP practice, and she talks about just the hardships, like everything they went through. And I was a community pharmacist full-time up until last year September, so I'm still very much in the loop, especially because I still locum for a couple of days a month, so I can tell you a bit about what I know and how I feel. Let's start from the beginning. Like, pharmacy as a whole is becoming a really amazing profession in the UK. It's always been great, but I feel like now, like, there's so much branches just opening up. There's so much more that pharmacists can do. It feels like almost someone just opened their eyes and saw the potential of pharmacists, and they're like, you can do this, you can do that, hey, you can help us here, hey, you can definitely do this, hey, you got skills for this, hey, you will be amazing at this. And they finally just, like, saw that pharmacists could do such great things, and now we're having so many more openings. We're having GP pharmacists, PCN pharmacists, medicines advice at home pharmacists. We're having, like, pharmacists working in the prisons, pharmacists working in so many different sectors, antimicrobial pharmacists, pharmacists going into legislation. I'm sure a lot of these things have been part of pharmacy for a while, but I don't think they've been as well known or as popular as they are getting now, which is really good, which means that a lot more opportunities are opening up for people to fill spaces in these roles. There's so much out there. Mel's Medicines posted recently about people should share their unusual pharmacy roles, and there was tons, and even I was shocked. I was like, wow, there's so much, and I was actually amazed and happy proud of everything that pharmacists are able to achieve nowadays. But the one thing that just stuck out to me was the fact that the community pharmacy sector is struggling. Chemists and Druggists recently spoke about a shortage of pharmacists in the UK. Is there really a shortage? Even I spoke about a shortage of pharmacists in the UK. Is there really a shortage? I feel like over time I've now come to realize that the shortage that we're talking about is a shortage of pharmacists who are willing to be treated like trash. A shortage of pharmacists who have decided to just stay there and not ask for what they feel like they deserve. A shortage of pharmacists who would just take whatever is being thrown at them and not be asked for fairness. Because I feel like over time we've gradually seen funding cuts come into community. Like the NHS constantly cuts the funding that's going into the community. That this funding actually helps for how pharmacies are being run, the amount of staff that pharmacies can hire to make sure that they have a smooth running pharmacy. The funding helps a lot in pharmacy, and we've now seen an increased burden, because again, with people now finding out that pharmacists can do X, Y, and Z, they're trying to shift a lot of burden from like the GPs, for example, or even community teams, for example, shift it onto the community pharmacists who they're taking money away from. Imagine someone was paying you like £1 million to do a job, right? And then all of a sudden they discover that you're really good, but they just decide to cut your funding from 1 million to 500,000, but they still expect you to continue working at the same rate and at the same level of quality and at the same, just give them the same amount of value you used to give. Is it possible? Because a lot of the time you need a lot to be able to facilitate things, for things to run smoothly and go right. I don't know why people overlook pharmacy, and it became even more apparent during the pandemic when the government will be mentioning sectors, the healthcare sectors. We had to see bodies like the RPS and the GPHC running to defend pharmacists, or even shout for pharmacists, or like say, oh, pharmacists should be included. So the government will be mentioning sectors in healthcare and they will not include pharmacists. Like, I don't understand. Or you would see like a lot of like, oh, food places, so Domino's were giving free food to XYZ. I don't think Domino's did this, but I'm just using them as an example. We're giving free food to all these healthcare workers, These people are included, and they will make a list of nurses, midwives, this, that, and all these people are healthcare workers, but there will be no mention of pharmacists. The pandemic made it so glaring to the eyes that people did not rate pharmacists. And it is so sad, because I feel like pharmacists do a lot. Pharmacists are at the core of the primary care system. Without pharmacists in the primary care system, and I'm talking about community pharmacists at this point, because there are other pharmacists working elsewhere and I'm sure they're doing great jobs, but without the community pharmacists, there will be a real struggle. I'm seeing big companies closing down or selling off their businesses. Why? Because the funding is not enough for them to run effective services. And I can say that provided an environment that felt safe to work as a pharmacist. But as time went by, you can see with these businesses that for them to be able to run an effective business, they had to cut things, they had to cut back, they had to cut back on staffing, they had to cut back on payments, they had to cut back on so much that made the job of the pharmacist inadvertently just unsafe. So a lot of people became stressed, a lot of people became angry, a lot of people became worried. People could not devote their time to actually giving proper care to patients because there's all these other things going on. And I was actually an example of that. I was in a pharmacy where I love to interact with my patients. I love to like speak to patients, make sure that they're getting on okay, spend my time doing my clinical screens, make sure my accuracy checking is done okay, make sure XYZ are done, make sure my new medicine service patients are being called up, make sure I'm running an effective service, make sure my service is safe, make sure people come into the pharmacy and feel heard and seen, because we're like literally one of the easiest places for people to walk into with their healthcare concerns. And Over time, I saw that the staff that was meant to help me make sure I was running an effective service were being cut down, and then I had to start picking up other things that shouldn't have been for me to pick up when I'm supposed to be focusing on doing my clinical checks. Do you get? And then now it's like my balance is shifting. I'm not able to provide effective healthcare service. Then the NHS decides to add more services onto what I'm already doing. Like, I'm not already struggling. Cut more funding. I can understand we spent so much on the pandemic, but I think it's time for the NHS or even the government to just sit down and decide like how important the pharmacy sector is to just the state of the healthcare. Because at the end of the day, if the pharmacy sector is running well, if primary care, if the community is working well, we're reducing a lot of the burden on secondary care, because people will have effective service and healthcare in their own homes or even in the community, so they don't have to go and take up beds in the hospital. So I feel like the government just did such a horrible thing by not recognizing pharmacists for the hard work, because this job is not easy. The hard work that pharmacists do, I think that was one. And then two, now cutting all this funding. And then three, now adding on more services. Oh, you can do X, Y, Z. You need to do this. You need to do that. Without any recognition or without any proper payment. Anyone will be frustrated. I've repeatedly gone into pharmacies where pharmacists are like, yeah, I'm quitting in the next few weeks. I can't do it anymore. It's mentally draining. It's emotionally draining. It's so frustrating. And this has happened gradually over time. And I feel like it just became more glaring towards the end of last year and early this year. I just think the government needs to just sit down and reanalyze like what's important, what really is important. Like, we need to actually take pharmacies seriously. Pharmacies are the core of your healthcare system. GP surgeries work well with pharmacies that run okay, pharmacies that are running effectively, and your patients will not get their medications, or they will not have the right in fact, things will just go wrong if your pharmacist doesn't have sanity to deal with a lot of things that are being thrown at them. Because don't get me wrong, it's our job, but then if you take away the things that are supposed to help us and support us and make sure that we're doing the right things and doing the best quality of work that we can do, then the quality is going to be affected. There's nothing you can, the quality will be affected. And unfortunately, a lot of pharmacies have ethical values to like uphold, that if they start to notice that their ethics and just the value of their work is dwindling and it's no longer safe, it's no longer legal, what you're doing is no longer legal. Like, imagine expecting pharmacists to sign on to being in the pharmacy and then let people work without the pharmacist being actually there. Don't pay the pharmacist for those hours, but then you're making them sign an advance declaration saying that they're happy for the premises to run in their absence. That's unsafe. I personally would not. I would not do that. That's unsafe. Because no, let's not. Because like it's just stressful to think of. It can be quite overwhelming. I've been back in community a few times and I just see things going the wrong way, and I think the government just needs to step out and just do something about this. A lot of pharmacies that I walk into to Locum, I speak to the teams and they tell me that their main pharmacist is resigning, their main pharmacist has left, their pharmacist has left. So there's no shortage of pharmacists. Pharmacists are still around everywhere. We still got lots of pharmacists. They've just decided to go to places where they feel like they're appreciated. And that's it, period. That is period, literally. They just decided to go to where they feel appreciated and not overworked, not overwhelmed, not being made to feel like a crazy person. Because anyways, so there's a lot of like positions to fill, and do you know what's now happening? The locum rates are going up and up and up and up, because pharmacists are now deciding to go into locuming if there's no place that seems conducive to work in. Because with locuming, there's a lot you can do that's safer for you. And with locuming comes, the locum rates are now really high, which I don't blame people for, because it's like, okay, I'm working this hard, you better pay me for it. When you're employed with the company, they don't pay you as much as you get paid as a locum. I mean, there are pros and cons of being a locum and there are pros and cons of being employed. But if you're earning more money and you're having to deal with less responsibility, does that not sound better? And it just sucks, because working with a company was actually really great. when I first started working as a pharmacist. It was really lovely. I just don't like to see how things have just gone downhill, and it's just sad and it frustrates me, because the job I do now, we actually have to work with community pharmacies, and we're seeing lots of pharmacies just either not work very well or lose their staffing or just not be in a great place. And I don't know where we're going to be another 5 to 10 years from now. But I think it's highly important that the regulatory bodies and the government and the NHS all just come together and decide to give pharmacies what is fair. You have to be mentally sound to work in a pharmacy. You have to literally be able to take on a lot. You have to be able to juggle a lot. There's so much you have to be able to do to work in a pharmacy. And when pharmacists see that they're doing all this hard work and not getting paid properly for it, no one wants to stay where they're not appreciated. Absolutely nobody. Absolutely nobody. Yeah, so this is me ranting and raving. I think I just had to come on here and be a bit honest about what the state of things are, because obviously I've spoken a lot about going into community pharmacies, especially to my subscribers who want to relocate to the UK. The community pharmacy sector, I believe, is literally one of the most beautiful things about being a pharmacist, but I just currently feel like the situation in the UK is not the most conducive. Certain businesses are still getting it right. Certain businesses are still doing great. Another aspect of underappreciation is patients not really appreciating the role of pharmacist. I think this is gradually changing, because during the pandemic, a lot of other healthcare sectors were closed and people could not go in to speak to anyone. Only the pharmacist was wide open, bagada, for anybody to enter. The pharmacy was open for anyone to go in, so people took a lot of their frustrations out on pharmacists. But I think over time we can see a new appreciation for the role of a pharmacist. I mean, I don't think many people do as much as we would like them to yet, but we're getting there gradually with patients. There's a running joke in community pharmacy that if we could literally have people come and have a walk in my shoes days, like, oh, you really think I'm doing my job is like easy, or you really think I'm just playing around in this place? Like, no, walk in my shoes for a few minutes, or even a day. Like, I would like for someone like, say, Boris Johnson to just come and work in pharmacy for a day, be a dispenser, be a pharmacist even. We'll have a dummy pharmacy, work there, and then you see exactly what things that pharmacists and the entire pharmacy team take on, and I think there will be a little bit more appreciation from the general public. This is me relaying a lot of frustration that I know that a lot of pharmacists have inside of them right at this very moment. I really hope that things change. I really hope that something happens, because if things carry on the way they are, we would see an absolutely dreadful shortage of pharmacists willing to work in community. Literally, we would see, like, the average community pharmacist now, their dream is just to leave. And I think that's so unfair, because I'm so passionate about community pharmacy, but even I left, and that's just sad. That's sad. And I just hope that things do get better. Thank you so much for listening to my rant. If you have different opinions, like I said, please let me know. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you in my next video. Hopefully this rant gets somewhere and someone can relate to my frustrations. I'm sure a lot of pharmacists can relate. So yeah, have a lovely day, guys, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.